Welcome to the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we celebrate the power, brilliance, and resilience of women everywhere. I'm your host, Shanasia Washington. Join us as we share inspiring stories and insights from extraordinary women who have found their voice and are making a difference. Together, we'll create a ripple effect, illuminating the path to visibility and empowerment. Let's break barriers, shatter ceilings, and lift each other up. In each episode, we dive deep into the journeys of women who have turned their challenges into triumphs and their dreams into reality. Whether you're looking for motivation, guidance, or a community that understands your journey, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and remember, let your voice shine. Woo! And just like that, I'm back with another amazing episode. You heard what the drop said. You're in the right place if you're looking for authenticity, real life conversations, and to see this fabulous host, the Shanasia Washington, streaming from the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. And where we at, y'all? The Her Voice Shines podcast. Y'all know I say this all the time, and I'm always been on this the best podcast on the planet, because if I ain't gonna stand on it, who else gonna stand on it? But guess what? We got another fabulous guest today. I've been reading their information. I swoop around on all my guests. I go look around. I'm like, how you knew that, girl? Because look, if I called you to be here, I'm going to treat you real good, and we're going to get into your story. Without any further waiting time, here's our very beautiful guest for today. She's going to come to the stage, do our normal drill, tell us her name, where she's streaming from, and we get that story. And here she is.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Tywanna Smith. Everybody just calls me Dr. T, and I'm hailing from Memphis, Tennessee. I would like to think that my journey into sports and being this international sports advisor started from a little girl who loved the game of basketball. I had a cousin who played in the NBA, took me under his wing, and then I developed my own love. I went to college, and I was honored to be able to play sports professionally abroad. For 2 years, I spent some time in Holland and Spain, and it was such an amazing experience. And I found that I had an affinity for the business side of the game. So when I retired, I became a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch, and the rest is history. That was 18 years ago, but I knew that the way I wanted to combine my love for business and sports was to be a manager with professional athletes, to manage their finances, to manage their business affairs. And I've been able to do that with over 60 pros from all around the world, NBA players, NFL, WNBA, Major League Baseball, and then again, some who have played in countries and leagues in Europe and China. Amazing experience. And throughout that time, just like anybody, once you've done something long enough and become, I guess, in many ways, an expert in this space, I have been very committed to teaching, right, other athletes, because through this game of sports, these individuals are change agents in the community. And so I've written books, I have best-selling books, I have directed films, award-winning films, I am a motivational speaker, and I am also a college professor at the University of Memphis, where I try to teach young adults who are entering the world how to capitalize off their skills. And today I'm here to share more of my story, but also lessons that I have learned over my 18 years in the business.
So look, I told you, I know Dr. Tywanna over looking all nice and pretty. I told her she had a lot of stuff going on. She is amazing. I am very proud of you in your strides. One of the things that stood out when I was reading through your information, you said this, and I could just like was an instant kind of correlation, because you said faith is my superpower, right?
Yeah.
Faith is my superpower. It's and I've been talking about this kind of heavily over probably the past 10 weeks, because I tell people like my most fanatical shift in faith was 2024 leading into this year. So I've been having a different inner workings as it relates to faith. Tell me about a specific moment where your faith kind of help you through maybe an unexpected pivot, because you've had a lot of pivots there. I mean, you talked about it very, sweet. That's kind of how we do. But when we have to pivot, that's kind of when faith really, really ignites. So tell us about that walk.
Yeah. And I've had several of those moments too that come to mind off the top. One was early in my career as I was going down the road of financial management with my clients and just realizing and really humanizing them, I guess, in their experiences, right? Because these are still just young adults who've never dealt with this type of money and with this type of scrutiny. And they made a lot of mistakes. And so I found myself having to pivot as we often must do in entrepreneurship, having to pivot into other areas to fully serve their needs beyond just managing money, right? And so that's when I expanded my practice and really launched the Athletes Nexus, where I'm able to cover, branding, endorsements and marketing, business management, and the whole nine. But then I would say the next moment was during the COVID era. And I'm sure many of us had these faith-based moments and just pivoting and believing, right? That, you know what, we got to do something and this thing is going to work out. I do not believe in praying for or about something and not believing the thing that you're praying for can actually happen. And so during COVID, when all the borders began to shut down between countries and people were forced to stay home, there was this moment of fear and doubt creeping in, because my business at that point was heavily weighted on international athletes, right? And so we could no longer travel. They're not playing games. What does that mean for my business? And so I had to sit back for a second and really sit in that thing and, remember, right, where I come from and the position I was in to be able to pivot in any direction if I wanted to. And then as things began to settle down, I realized that there was a story to be told. And I began to tell that story for these thousands of American athletes who find themselves playing abroad through storytelling in the film. And so that was an interesting experience that, believe in the Lord to walk us through. But then also the launching of a business summit for these athletes where we're entering our second year at this summit that's usually held in Las Vegas. And so through the pivots, I had to rely on my faith.
I love that. And I think also too, for me, those pieces of faith have really also to inform my leadership. Right. It's
sure.
And you're in a male dominated field. I left financial. So you mentioned Merrill Lynch. I used to work for one of their probably top competitors. Right. I was in financial for 13 years. So girl,
you know the struggle.
Girl, she said Merrill Lynch, I almost fell out the chair. I say, look, I know what I know what that life is about.
What you were dealing with.
Yeah, I worked for one of the competitors for quite some time, and I think being in that mill, I had to grow from that, right? Because my leadership style had to be a certain way. I was, of course, an African American woman in a field that was, white male dominated. I'm very transparent in my speaking. I don't cut corners. This is my space to do that, and that for me was a very challenging navigation. Particularly in the last 3 years of my career. So even for you, like even speaking on like an international scale, how has your faith informed your leadership? And then let's maybe layer faith and experience, because I think it's a combination of both. How has that informed your leadership style?
Yeah, I think in two ways. Number one, and I tell young folks this all the time when I mentor them, every answer to every question or problem you have, you can find in the word, right? And so I'm very grounded there. And just looking to that as my answer when I don't know, when I'm confused, when it's really busy and moving fast, when I'm doubting myself, right? That's my calming force. Right. There is nothing new under the sun. I'm not the first person to go through this. And so that does give me some relief. But then, also as I think about some of the challenges and the forces, for lack of a better word, that come against me as a Black woman in financial services, but then also a Black woman in sports. Right. Which is kind of a double whammy. I don't think I always pay attention to those forces. Well, I didn't early in my career. Let me say that. And so now I kind of see certain things coming before they get there. But I just think having the word as this calming force. Right. You've got the highs, you've got the lows, and all of the things in between. You're dealing with people, but it gives me a better understanding, and it does inform my leadership and helps me learn how to deal with people who may be operating under, forces that they don't even realize, right? Sometimes they don't realize they're being very condescending in what they're saying. And so that allows me to give them grace when I'm dealing in those moments and to stay focused, right, on what I'm trying to do. Sometimes I think I'm so committed to what I'm doing that I don't indulge, right, in anything that distracts me from my focus. But if I'm being honest, right, over time, it does sort of have an effect on how you view things. And it's important for me to rely on my faith when I find myself in those moments.
See, I love that. And I love to tie that connection, because a lot of people, and you said something that was so key. You said that everything that we go through, there's a direct correlation of something in the Bible or something in the Word that can actually walk here, because we're in a place now where people are so disconnected from that word walk. You know it, Dr. Smith.
The guiding force, that's standard for how you live your life. Like if you're just making it up as you go and your emotions are all over the place and you're looking at things on social media, like you will be tossed to and fro, right? But this very consistent guiding force that I can always return to stabilize, whatever's going on is key.
I love that. And another thing I've noticed that, I've read through your information, you have really developed some great partnerships. You talked about U.S. Department, Syracuse, NBA players, all that stuff, right? Tell me about your approach to creating sustainable relationships that last, because relationship building is key. I have to ask the real questions, because sometimes people glaze over like people's success and strides and things like that. But these are key components to like the journey at large.
Yeah, teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. And I've been a part of a team sport my entire life. And so I understand that concept. Everyone plays a role. Everyone has things that they excel in. And if you can combine those competencies with a mutually beneficial outcome, right? I'll be teaching a negotiations course here soon. And, that's important for people to enter into these collaborative conversations with that mindset. It's not just about me getting what I want, right? It's not just about you getting your needs met. If we can both come to the table and figure out how we can both come out with a satisfactory outcome, right? And that is the key. So when I am negotiating with and speaking with these different entities and figuring out what they're looking for, their goal, their objective, and find that there's some synergy, there's some alignment, that's the button that I push. And the most important component is not me. There's no I in team, right? It's not me getting my name called or my ego stroked. And some people have trouble with that, right? They may not admit it. Some people have trouble with that and not having their name called or being recognized. For most of what I've done in my career, I've been in the background, right? When I'm working with my clients, they're the talent, right? Their face is out front. I'm the one putting out fires, putting strategies together, managing teams. And I'm fine there because I know, I feel very confident in what I do. But these partnerships are designed to make whatever our outcome is happen, right? Like to elevate something, to shine a light on something. We're stronger together. And if we both keep that as the main thing, that's what makes these teams and collaborations and partnerships impactful. And that's why we've been able to do some amazing things in the sports space, because we've identified a gap that serves everyone if we fill it and we're able to do it together.
I love it. I love it. And that teamwork is something, I tell people before I came in the entrepreneur space and I, had the corporate career, I was really operating in my superpower of community building and teamwork there, because my role switched so much. Everybody got the opportunity to say, oh, I'm an expert and I've been doing risk management and I've been doing all this for 10 years. Sinead never had that story. Sinead got a new role every 14 to 18 months. I never had the opportunity to say, oh, I'm an expert, and I was wondering like, oh, why is this happening like all the time, whatever. But I had to understand how he designs me. He designs me to synthesize information and distribute it. So it wasn't personal. It wasn't personal. It was me understanding my divine placement and how my life is supposed to go, right? So that was the part that I had to really, really step back from, but really that community building, because when I got ready to leave, I'm like, look, y'all, Chung Deuce, your girl is gone. Don't weep for me. Don't cry me no river. Don't do none of that. My umbrella of grace has moved and I got to go with it. So don't cry for me. But at the same time, the information that was, they were like, oh my gosh, nobody ever listened to us like you do. Nobody ever, but it was those seeds. I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to cultivate that and really let that team building and partnership strategy come over on this side, so where I can put it into the earth in a different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So and put your spin on it. your special
Ooh.
touch, right? Even if I tell people this all the time because I teach networking courses and I have these mixers, is particularly with students and young adults in the business. I try to bring young women who are entering sports alongside me and teach them and expose them. But to understand that piece, you will never ever do anything on your own. And so if you don't learn how to connect with people, master relationship building, which does not mean you're just reaching out to people when you want something, right? A lot of these conversations just simply become connections, and you may not revisit them until years down the road, right? But you've built this network, you've built this community of people who share a common goal, and you've made an impression, and maybe the timing wasn't right for you all to connect and do some meaningful work. But when it comes back around, right, that's when you know that you've actually cultivated social capital, right? And not just this connection. But again, it starts with your mindset going in. If you're just looking for what can they do for me right now? Okay, I can't use them. So, I have no need for them. You will miss the beauty of learning, growing through the human connection, right? And so that's really important.
I love that, and that human connection has been so great for me because, like, now, I mean, now I get it, right? Because now I've gotten to this place, like the podcasting space. Because people are like, "Oh, how long you been podcast?" I'm like, "Girl, like 6 months." It's this ain't no right. I said, but it took so much refining to get here. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just like, oh, cut the camera on. Like, all the work, and I tell people this particular brand was built off of self work. Like, yeah. I didn't just get confident enough to start having these conversations and it feel like this. This right. is a combination of all of the work that I put into myself to say that I'm going to show up and I'm going to do it not only my way, but his way. And I'm going to also that's the part. Yeah. And I said, I had to go through all of that. So I always encourage people, do the work. We can come and do all of these things for you, but you got to do, you got to do it all self work. You got to have it in time. And sometimes the intimate time is that, kind of like that diamond in the rough phase. It's a little rough over here because I'm doing that hard work that it's not glamorous. But it's designed this
necessary.
Way. Necessary. Oh, yeah. I love necessary, Dr. Smith. I really do. Let me go here. If there's someone that's out there, maybe they feel like I'm the only one in the room that looks like me, or however it is that they look, right? And they're in a situation where they maybe feel like they're breaking barriers. What advice do you give them when they often feel I'm the only one in the room that looks like this? I'm the only one that probably have this particular experience. What do you tell them to keep them fueled for navigating those spaces?
Yeah, I would give them two pieces of advice. First and foremost, put your derby goggles on, right? In the Kentucky Derby, when the horses are racing, they have these blinders where they can't see in their peripheral, right? And far too often, the reason that we fall short and allow the doubt to creep in is because we're spending more time looking around at everybody else, comparing ourselves, listening to the naysayers. And we don't realize that when we give anything attention, it grows. Okay. So my first piece of advice will be to stay focused on your race, stay in your lane, right? And whatever you have to do to protect yourself from your human tendencies and your curiosity to want to know what they say. Okay. Make sure you do those things so you can stay focused. All right. The second thing I would say is to find your tribe. All right. Again, teamwork. It even applies here. You're not going to do anything on your own. And there are some special people that the Lord has sent to support you, to encourage you, to uplift you during those heavy times, because they will come. And that spoken word, that prayer, that person that just wants to take you to lunch because they can see that you're in a rough space, the person who can see things from a different perspective, right? And can help you to uncover and discover things about yourself, but also opportunities for you to use your superpowers in an amazing way. I say my tribe of women who've been around me 20 and 30 plus years. Okay. And people are like, wow, you can really yeah, look, I had the same phone number since I was in college. All right. But yes, maintaining relationships in my personal life easily spills over into my professional life because these women embrace me and support me, and they have been there through the highs and lows. And you can fly with confidence when you know that you have people there to catch you if you fall. right? So stay focused and find your tribe, and you will make, you'll be successful in whatever you decide to do.
Look at Dr. Smith talking about, I had my same number since college. Girl, me too. I said, I ain't got no reason to be changing my
Listen, who has time for that? When I have people like that are like, this is my new number, say my name. And it's like every, few months. And I'm just, what's going on with you? That you're like, what are you doing that you have to change numbers so often? So that stability in friendship is important.
It really is. It really is. I'm like, everybody said, what do you got that old dinosaur number? And do it because who am I hiding from? If I don't want to talk to you, I cut you off. I don't have time for all this extra. So that's just how it goes. Same old number, 20 plus years. I thought that was funny when you said that. But part of this podcast has been finding that tribe for me. And then that's important, right? Because especially when you have a shift. Like when I was going through, I think 2020, of course, pandemic, all this kind of things. But I was going through a bunch of internal shifts. I was coming towards the end of my career, left corporate in 2021. So I was having a lot of other internal shifts, right? So when I was on that trajectory of like this true growth and purpose-driven work, it was also too very heartbreaking because I had to experience the growth. And sometimes that means not taking the people. There's always been, that's always been around. So when you come from a community that's tight knit and you're used to having so many people kind of around, but when you make a bold decision to say, I'm not living like this no more, like I'm not doing this, you lose people. So that for me was very hard. So it was like literally in my prayers to find, I said, this is going to be different. There's nobody around me that's doing it like this. There's nobody around me that understands. And I literally prayed every day, you're going to send the people. I'm just going to keep taking the steps. And I know that you will send the people. You have not failed me yet. It's scary because I don't have that comforting, oh my gosh, I can call because I don't want to talk about, what's on. I don't want to talk about no daily gossip. I don't want to do that. I have something I'm building. So you can't have the conversations with everybody. So I literally have been talking about probably for the past week or so, I was like, this particular space has cost me. We like to glamorize all of the stuff, the accolades and all this stuff, but it's cost me. It's cost me a lot of different things. And I'm always very transparent about that. I don't want to make it seem like it's not a beautiful place to be, but there was a cost associated with it that people don't understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you see the glow, you don't see the grind. You see the success, but you don't see the sacrifice. And when you remember we would see those images of how lonely success is, right? You'll have somebody on the mountain peak and they're by themselves and they just stand up looking out, ain't nobody up there with them, right? It is because it's a mindset shift and it becomes very difficult to engage people when they're not shifting as well. Like if you're not growing, and I mean, you see this in relationships, people break up all the time because they're not growing together. You don't have to do the same thing, but you both do need to be having some forward and upward motion, right? Growing personally, your discipline, your focus, all of those things. One of the hardest things for my clients, my professional athlete clients, and people see them transition into these spaces where now you're suddenly a 100,000-aire or a multimillionaire, right? And along with that, your experiences change. What you're exposed to, it changes as well. And suddenly your mindset is different because the things that move you, that intrigue you, that you are drawn to are no longer the mundane things that you have. They say, the Bible says, idle mind is a devil, or we say the idle mind is a devil's playground, right? And so you ain't got nothing to do. You have all these thoughts, these meaningless, unproductive, wasteful thoughts going through your mind because you're not productive. You're not using your gifts. You're not trying to learn. You're not trying to connect with people. And so one of the hardest things for my clients to do and to deal with, and I'm talking folks in tears because of these hard choices you have to make, is to separate yourself from people who are not going where you're going. And again, this isn't necessarily, the same, literally, another athlete, you're a millionaire. No, you're not growing in any way. So you're not going in the same direction I'm going, but I love you, but you've been there with me, right? But at some point, somebody is going to hold somebody back. Okay. And that's not fair to either of you. Right. And so one of the hardest decisions, particularly if it's family or a close friend that has been with you your entire lives, is to decide, you know what, my mindset is just different. This no longer serves me. It drains me. Right. It's depressing sometimes for me to come back to this mindset of people. And it's really hard to make that separation when it's not in your best interest anymore. Now, I don't want to say this as if you're using a person, right? But your peace, your mental health, your progress in life is your responsibility, right? It's cool, like, oh, that's noble of you to kind of keep these, right? But at the end of the day, when you begin to suffer, when you run out of money, when all these things happen, people want to blame you. So you've got to make a stand and protect these boundaries. And when situations are no longer healthy for you, and sometimes it's just mentally and emotionally, it's very hard to make that decision to move on.
Yeah, and I do believe, even as we speak, that I am still in battle with that now, right? I'm still in battle with it for
Yeah.
the ultimate like war, right? And it is a hard thing because I go back and forth, and you talk about that, like you don't want to make it seem like you're using a person,
Yeah.
But I just feel like kind of like reasons and seasons, right? Everything that I was able to get from this, I'm very grateful for. But at the end of the day, there is no. We're not compatible in terms of that growth mindset, and it doesn't always look like career climbing or getting financial gain. But are you progressing in your peace? Are you progressing in having meaningful adult conversations? I'm just talking about some. You know what? I'm not gonna go there because we'll be here another hour now, Dr. Smith. I'm trying to.
I've learned.
I want to ask you this because we have to talk about it because sometimes we let me just say we mix up what growth is. We mix it up. We got it all the way twisted, baby, because you can have $1 million in your bank account and still ain't got nothing going on up here. So don't play with me like that. Never think that I'm thinking about money or all of this prestige and fame. I'm talking about some internal growth work.
Yes. When what's the word say? When I was a child, I thought and behaved as a child, but when I've grown up a little bit, I was supposed to put away childish things. And you would be surprised how many people stay there because, they're serving their ego, right? Through the status symbols and the titles and the money and all those exterior material things. But on the inside, just rotting away because they still have the mindset of immaturity, of, that crab mindset. The only way I can be successful is if I kind of throw dirt or hold this person back. And I think, in my more seasoned age, that intellectual stimulation is key in every relationship in my life, right? And so it really, it grieves me though, at times, to see people who still fiercely hold on to those thought processes. Like there's no reason for you to not be able to resolve conflict with another grown person at 40, in our 40s, right? And so once we realize that we are the problem in 99% of our problems, that's when things will change. But it does require us to grow up and mature on the inside. Yeah.
I love it. I want to ask you this because I like something that you said in your form. You said that you want to leave a legacy of bold confidence. Girl, that's good. You gotta sit in there. That's a good one. Because you say bold. I was like, yeah, I like that one. That one, that one's strong. That's a legacy of bold confidence. That's a good one. So tell me what that looks like in practice.
Yeah.
Because when we say legacy, like you got to be doing something now to build a legacy. So what does that look like in practice for your kids, your colleagues, your client? What does that look like in practice?
Yes. Being sure of yourself, being sure of your superpower, understanding I don't have to be anyone else other than me, right? And I'm not going to sit here and say, the imposter syndrome or just kind of the comparing yourself to others, doesn't occur, right? It does, but you got to right your ship. The Bible says to, bring your thoughts into captivity. You got to right that ship and stay rooted in your purpose. There is an amazing journey that I've gone on throughout my life that the Lord has given me to go on. And there are not many people who can say they have those experiences. And that's special to me because it's unique. It's what makes me unique, right? And special. And so all I got to know is me. All I got to know is what I know and how I serve the demographic of folks that I serve. And because I know me, right? Earlier, you talked about being uncertain. not knowing what's next or who. Those things will make you nervous and anxious and all those things. But because I know me, right? I've been with me for a really long time, my entire life. I can walk boldly in that because I'm not trying to pretend. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not trying to be someone that I'm not. And I know how the Lord has designed me and what he's given me to do. I'm clear on my purpose. So with that, I hope to inspire my daughter and my son, right? Who do want to emulate me and everything they do. And it's really cute. Be bold, baby, in who you are, right? The world is going to try to change you and make you be some other things. Walk boldly, being sure of yourself and the gifts that the Lord has given you, and everything else will fall into place. Those gifts will make room for you, but you got to believe. Now, I started off talking about believing, right? And walk confidently and upright in that. If I can share that message, if I can be that, so that people can witness, even if they never get an opportunity to meet me and they are inspired to allow the light that's already in them to come on, I feel like the Lord has used me to do a good work, right? But walking boldly, it just means to know who you are, your purpose, and to walk confidently in that.
Oh, I love it. And some of you grown 45, 50-year-old that's sitting here watching this, you need to tap into that. Okay, yeah. Because, sometimes you go through life and you never ever get that shaking because they like to say, I know who I am. I know me. I've been with me for 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
So you need to take that and walk with that. And guess what? If you don't know yourself, here's a good time to figure out who the heck you are. Because maybe you don't know yourself. Maybe you ain't spent enough a long time. You've been serving everybody. You've been doing all kind of stuff to actually figure out who you are.
Moving around, busy. And I find that when I have people pulling on me and all these, and I'm like, oh my gosh, where I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. It's like being in the eye of the storm, right? When you get to that eye, it's still. What do they call it? The calm before? And so that's my reminder. When I feel that way, be still. I can't hear what the Lord is saying to me when I'm talking. I can't hear what the Lord is saying to me when I'm moving around and shaking and all these other things. Be still so that it becomes clear, and then you can chart your movements. But you've got to be in tune and in touch with yourself and aware of what the Lord is giving you to do.
Oh, I love it. And let me tell you this. Let's go to this segment because we have to have a clean segment. We've talked about your services kind of, we weaved them in. But I need a clear segment for Dr. Tywanna Smith to tell us what those services are, just in a 1 or 2 liner, and also to give us some connection points, whether it's social media, website, whatever you want for people to contact you should they need to reach out to you. Please provide that now.
Yes, I am a sports and business advisor, an international sports and business advisor, and I specialize in financial and business management services, advisory services related to branding, marketing, and also legacy building through community engagement. I do that in a lot of ways through my books, through my films, through the courses that I teach, through the conferences that I run, and in the rooms that I'm able to speak in as a keynote all across the world. If you want to learn more about me, you can visit my website where it's all things Dr. T. It's www.tywannasmith.com. I am also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Dr. Tywanna Smith. And yeah, I think those are the main connection points that you'll have all of my other contact information and all the cool things that I have coming up.
I love it. Now, Dr. Tywanna Smith, we got to play rapid fire. Okay. Got 10 questions. All you get is a word or a sentence now. You're just going to fire them off. You're just going to say, look.
Let's get it.
I'm here rapid fire. So I think we went a little over, but I gotta do this with you because I think you're going to do well here. So let's start. Number 1, faith in one word.
Belief.
Love it. Number 2, your go-to power move when you feel doubt creeping in.
Prayer.
Love it. A lesson motherhood has taught you about business.
Patience with others.
One athlete, past or present, that you would love to represent.
Michael Jordan.
Hey, it's a good one.
MJ over here.
A quote or scripture you live by. I know there's a lot, but
yeah, all things work together for the good of those who are called according to His purpose. Romans 8:28.
Coffee or tea when you're closing a deal?
Tea.
Me too.
Green tea.
The summit city that you're manifesting next.
Say it again.
The summit city. I know you are doing different summits. What city are
Yes.
you manifesting next?
Las Vegas and then Indy.
Oh, okay. Your leadership anthem or go-to motivational song?
Oh gosh. Alicia Keys, This Girl Is on Fire.
Okay, that's a good one. The best advice a mentor or someone that you looked up to gave you?
Be bold. Be bold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And last, success feels like?
Success feels like freedom from others, the opinions of others, and success feels like peace.
I love it.
Peace.
What an amazing, that was an amazing rapid fire round. You did that, Dr. Smith. Yay for that rapid fire, girl. Knock it out the box, okay? Now, this is the part in our show where we cue over to you for final thoughts. I tell my guests, give us something that give us some good parting words for this space and really something that captures the essence of Dr. Tywanna Smith. And then I'll be back to close the show.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. I would say believe in yourself. Believe in how the Lord made you, the gifts that he gave you, and use them to the fullest. There's a parable of the talents that I'm going to encourage you to read in your own time. Use them to the fullest to do some good in the world and watch the good come back to you.
Absolutely beautiful. Let me tell you, Dr. Smith, I've had a great time here. I'm very proud of you and everything that you've done, all the pivots that you've made, everything you're doing representing us in sports, for being a mother and really just to be a kingdom worker. You're a kingdom worker. And I thank you for that, right? Because that's the real meat of it, right? You meet people that do the thing, but then you meet kingdom workers. It's different. But we don't get into that because we'll be here in another hour. Dr. Smith, we don't want to do that. But listen, everybody that's out there in the Her Voice Shines podcast world, you know I love you. And like the people in church say I love you. It's nothing that you can do about it. We'll be back with another amazing woman on the Her Voice Shines podcast in really no time. Until then, I love you and nothing you can do about it. We'll be back soon.